Bill Nye's the kind of guy you can relate to because I think he is a lot like me in that sense. What you see is what you get. But listening to his origin story, I don't think he's been that different at any point in his life. And it was fun just hearing about how he met his wife. I didn't realize that happened that way, and then how formidable she is and what she's up to. And I just think the fun part of doing the podcast is you kind of just get to know people a little bit. And this medium, which has blown up over the last few years, has opened up an opportunity for more regular people to talk to other extraordinary people and vice versa. And I think that's kind of cool, right? And he was kind of giving me a hard, like I'm an investigative reporter, an advertising guy. You know, it's fun having that banter with him. But look, at the end of the day, this whole piece with him emphasized that science has to be critically important to the future of our country. And I think that's worth fighting for. And I do think, despite what people say about the administration, I do believe there's plenty of people within the administration that do believe that too, and we can get there. And they understand deep down that being number one in science can lead to a great future for all of us.
And I really appreciate when you asked him, like, what's the message to younger generations? And he said, vote. That's the power that we have with science in mind. And that's something really important for Gen Z that's voting now and for millennials to remember as we're shaping the next iteration of the U.S.
Please tune into this one. This is like mission critical and fun and important. He was just how I thought he would be. And, you know, pulling stuff out of drawers and out of, you know, his briefcase, all of it showing us his Medal of Freedom.
And we saw his Walk of Fame star. He's a big deal.
Yeah, he's a big deal. I love the bow tie matching the blue earth behind you, too. It looks good.
So, no joke, Al Gore gave me that. I'm not kidding you.
Gave you that photo in the back.
If you look closely, this is from a long time ago. You look at it for a few seconds, and your eye goes right to what was Hurricane Andrew.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, 19 Emmys, cultural icon. You're the guy who made our kids love science. I'd like to get to know the Bill Nye behind the bow tie. We did get a little time in Cannes, but not enough. Though I've heard that science guy is you, not a character.
Yeah, kind of what you see is what you get. That's sort of a feature and a bug. Yeah.
Do you think that authenticity is why the show and you've crushed it so much over the years?
Yes, maybe, yes. I will claim, let me start with this. Television is intimate. That is to say, when someone's on the television and he or she is in your living room, you yell at him, you call out to him or her, and he just keeps going. So this is why I've said for many years, you don't hate anyone more than you hate someone on television.
Or love, right?
Well,
is it both?
Yes. Well, by analogy, if the guy or gal on television is likable, you like him. Be that as it may, I was certainly a key to the show. I was the head writer. I was the main guy in what I call the OCD, the on-camera department. But we had a terrific crew. People were very creative. Jim and Aaron, my fellow creators and producers, just had a knack for hiring the right people. And everybody who worked on the show had a sense of humor. It's very important. This combination of people just really, we pulled off something pretty good.
Yeah, you can't do it without the team. So I like a little origin story. You were raised in D.C., right? By a mom who was a World War II code breaker.
In the city limits of Washington, D.C.
Wow, which is more unusual, maybe. She was a World War II code breaker. That's true, right?
Yeah, she never talked about it. No kidding. I mean, my dad was also a veteran. He was captured from Wake Island on Christmas Eve, 1941. Wake Island's in the middle of Pacific Ocean, nowhere. And
how long was he a POW for a long time?
44 months, longer than anyone else from the U.S. So whenever I think I have a problem, is just get over it.
So their tenacity influenced you?
I guess so. Yes. My dad often said, you have to have initiative, but you've got to have finitiative.
That's great. I like that. Finitiative. I'm going to steal that one too. At Cornell, you took astronomy with Carl Sagan, right?
Yeah.
Let's hear about your connection and how you carry on his legacy as CEO of the Planetary Society.
He got to meet me, as I joke. I met him when he was a professor of astronomy in the spring of 1977. It's significant in that summer was when the 2 Voyager spacecraft were launched. And I claim I had a tiny bit of influence on those spacecraft by recommending loudly in class that the rock and roll song you want to put on the Voyager audio recordings is not Roll Over Beethoven, but Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry. And that's the song that got on the record. All right, that aside,
That's
I
cool.
went to my 10th reunion. Yeah, I look back on it going, it was just, I happened to be there. Also, I remain a huge fan of Chuck Berry, and you can get into fistfights in the history of rock and roll bar. But I will credit Chuck Berry with being the guy that made black rhythm and blues into rock and roll, or at least popularized it to the point where everybody embraced it. I went to my 10th reunion, and Carl Sagan agreed to meet with me. And I told him I had this idea for a kid's show. And he said, focus on pure science. He said, don't do your engineering stuff. You're always focus on pure science. Kids resonate. That was a verb. Unforgettable. Kids resonate to pure science. That's what he said.
And that proved to be true.
I embraced it for sure.
So after Cornell, you won a Steve Martin lookalike contest. Have you met him?
Yeah, he got to meet me. That's a joke. He got to meet me. And he was very gracious. He was just lovely.
That inspired you to do stand-up comedy? That contest win? Or how did you get into comedy?
Yeah, so my claim for you to evaluate as the hard-hitting investigative journalist who manages a world-class advertising firm, after those first 2 albums, Let's Get Small and Wild and Crazy Guy, in my opinion, every major city in the maybe not even major city, every city in the U.S. and Canada suddenly had a stand-up comedy club or 2. Before that, there wasn't really, in my recollection, there wasn't really a stand-up comedy venue. There would be...
No, they were basements, right? I felt like they were always like in a basement.
The stereotype is the brick wall in the basement, yeah, which lends itself to the underground or disruptive. But Steve Martin's comedy was much more approachable or less polarizing or controversial than Lenny Bruce's. So they had Warner Brothers Records sponsored this lookalike contest, and I won in Seattle because a group of friends said, you ought to enter this. And they were new friends, people that I met. I got a job in Seattle at Boeing, and I moved there.
What'd you do there? What did you do at Boeing?
Engineer, worked on flight controls, so-called ailerons, rudder, horizontal stabilizer, a little bit of nose wheel steering, but it's hydraulics. And I just tell everybody, hydraulic systems are magical. If you want to move a house 6 inches in a 20th of a second, a 747 rudder actuator is what you need. Those things are so powerful, and they deliver so much energy so quickly, so much force so quickly. It's really something. So I did that for a few years, and then my boss said to me, want you to come work on this new airplane, which at that time was going to be the 767. And I said to him offhandedly, when's that going to fly? He said, 15 years. It'll fly. You'll be working on it for 15 years. And when you're a young guy, it sounds like a long time. A trap. So I left Boeing and went to a shipyard that made oil slick skimming boats, and then this gizmo for separating oil and water in the oil field. And that was respectfully just too low tech. It just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So I got another job in aerospace at a company called Sunstrand Data Control. And I still have very close friends I worked with there. But I managed to quit my job October 3rd, 1986, roughly, and pursued comedy and worked part-time as an engineer for several years before I could manage to convince people to make the Science Guy show.
How'd that come about? How did you do that?
Well, a man and a woman who are now husband and wife were working on a show called Seattle Today. And you don't have to know anything about the show Seattle Today to pretty much know what you were getting there. And they wanted to do something else. They wanted to make environmental videos, whatever that would be. And so the Washington State Department of Ecology. So Washington State is so hip, so groovy. It has a Department of Ecology back when the word ecology was almost controversial, as a new coinage. So we did a thing called Fabulous Wetlands, which is still on the internet, and it's became the template for the Science Guy show. And that was in 1988. And it took us another 4 years to get funding for a pilot. And we did. And then we started making the show. We came up with this at a time when children's television was controversial, in that children's television on Saturday mornings, what have you, became largely an ad for toys. And I get it. When you're a kid, man, if you have a toy that looks like the action hero, that's cool. That's fun. So the Children's Television Act was created at this time. It was Tipper Gore was spearheading this. We had this idea, this product, this presentation ready at this time in history when people were willing to fund it. So we got funding from the Department of Energy and from the National Science Foundation. And here we go. Yeah.
I have a question about the bow tie. How did that happen?
So largely it was because I had a crush on a girl in high school, and you wouldn't think the bow tie would be the thing. Understandable. We had a tradition, I guess we still have a tradition in my high school, where the boys are the waiters at what's called the girls' athletic banquet. This is where the girls receive their awards for field hockey, lacrosse, gymnastics, whatever the heck it is.
Yep.
And I thought, for example, if I were to bring this girl dessert, she might talk to me. And there's a risk. I mean, I didn't see much of a downside. So I said to my colleagues, if we're going to be waiters, let's dress like waiters. And my father, who's very good with knots, he's quite the Boy Scout, showed me how to tie a bow tie. I tied everybody's bow ties, and we served the ladies, the girls. And I went, okay. She talked to me a bit, but it didn't really go anywhere. But I noticed that the reason waiters wear bow ties is ergonomic or practical or whatever. When you lean over, a straight tie will fall into the tray. It will slip into the soup. In the laboratory, it will flop into your flask. Then I found that wearing a bow tie sets you apart from other, for example, stand-up comedians or wannabe stand-up comics. And so the bow tie just became a thing. And then when I'm doing the Science Guy show, it really is practical. It doesn't fall into stuff. It stays put on camera and so on.
And now iconic. So
now I can't stop. Yeah. I'm not turning back.
You can't.
No.
So how did you meet your wife? Was it around that time in Seattle, like working at Boeing and all that, or?
Oh, no. This is to me is a good story. My wife had been a reporter at the Washington Post.
Oh.
She started doing what they all do. Apparently, I say they all. Many of them seem to do, people I've met over the years. They start writing books. She wrote the first book about Michelle Obama. Several books have been written since, but she wrote the first one. She wrote this book about all the trouble people go to have kids, called Everything Conceivable. She wrote a book, The Richer Sex, about how girls and women are taking over the world, getting more advanced degrees, college degrees, making more money than the men they marry, and on and on. And then she wrote a book called Code Girls about the women recruited in the U.S. to break enemy codes, Nazi and Japanese military codes.
That was a movie, right?
It's a movie called The Imitation Game, which is based on the famous guy Alan Turing, who did the very early work on the logic of computer systems. And he came up with the scheme to make a machine that would imitate the output of the German Enigma code machine. And that's a movie based on that. But it is important to note that the British had a few hundred code-breaking women. The U.S. had 10,000. So my future wife's editor sent me an advance copy of the paperback edition of Code Girls. He thought you might be interested in this because it mentions your mother, blah, blah, blah. get to page 284, and she mentions my mom. So I wrote Liza what I'll call a charming email, and she answered it, and now we're married to each other.
That's awesome.
And so I said the other day, it was an interesting email, and Liza said, I don't know, it wasn't very interesting. No, she's very dry. My wife is very funny.
She is. I met her. But terrific. And now I think we have to have her on the podcast.
Well, I can't say enough good things. I would have her walk in here, but she's in Manila, in the Philippines, researching her next book. So there were 100 or so U.S. nurses in Manila and environs taking care of U.S. servicemen and sailors. And they were all taken prisoners of war, World War II. And none of them died, and they survived it, this and that. The U.S. women and a bunch of Filipina gals.
Well, I want to hear about that. My dad was stationed there. That's where he was.
In World War II?
In World War II, yeah. They sent guys over to settle it.
Oh, at the end, you mean? Or
at the end. It was at the end, yeah.
Yeah, because she's gone over there, seen the Bataan Death March and all that. Oh, man.
All that heavy stuff, yeah. So, look, I met you guys in Cannes at the Laughing at Doom panel for a series about Friedrich's ataxia, right? Are we going further on that?
You guys tell me, man. Do you know who Mary Hogan is?
Yeah.
She's my cousin, or my cousin once removed, speaking for you genealogical people out there. And so she is real into this, and there may be a drug that would address all of these forms of ataxia. And I just got a text about it yesterday, so I don't know the details. But that would be great because this condition is just a drag.
That's great. And thanks for building awareness with us. I mean, it's
maybe stopping the progression, which would be fabulous.
And it was in your family.
Still is, yeah.
Still is, right?
And my brother, who is older, really has symptoms coming on. My sister, is pretty much in a wheelchair, the oldest of the three of us. She can walk with assistance because it's not a strength issue. It's balance, coordination, extremities, this whole thing.
What struck me was how you were using humor to get us to talk about this difficult disease that was maybe very scary. That's something you did in the shows, right? To make tough things understandable and accessible to kids.
In the Science Guy show, yeah. And some of the best bits, frankly, were not that the show's funny most of the time, but there were a couple of serious bits about infectious diseases and plagues and so on. I'm very proud of those bits because they stand out on account of the contrast. They're juxtaposed with the humor.
So you're now a Walk of Fame star. I watched your ceremony.
I got that leaning. I haven't hung it up yet. It's leaning over there.
Oh, let's see it.
Sure.
Can you carry it? Oh, there you go. Oh, nice. Yeah. And Jalen Brown gave you that?
Well, the Hollywood Walk of Fame organization gave it to me.
No, they gave it to you, but didn't he?
Jalen Brown showed up. Jalen Brown came to the event. Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you meet him? Are you a big basketball fan?
I'm an okay basketball fan. Go to a basketball game. It is amazing. I mean, we've all, I believe, many of us who are able-bodied anyway, have tried to play basketball, but those guys are a whole nother. Yeah. Jalen Brown was on Jimmy Kimmel, the talk show. He said, I'd like someday to meet Bill Nye because he apparently he is a fan of the show, this and that. So contacted him. We met in the tunnel, I guess it's called, in the Wizards game in Washington, D.C. And we corresponded a little bit. And then I said, man, I'm getting a Walk of Fame. Would you be willing to come? He paid his own way, flew across the country with his publicist and his mom. And they came to the Walk of Fame and he said a few words. And it was just charming. He was a hit. I mean, he stole the show.
That's that's incredible. So yeah, that's making science accessible through sports and humor, and it's so important. Based on that, is there anyone taking the mantle and teaching the next generation about science the way you have?
The internet is lousy with science educators. The thing that still sets the Science Guy show apart, I think, and this for you hard-hitting investigative reporters, TV critics, and whoever you might be, is we focused on elementary science like actual elementary science. And many online presenters do what I would call high school or even college level science presentations, which are important, but that it hasn't nudged the Science Guy show to the side yet. But I imagine that'll happen eventually. The reason we did the show about elementary science was we had very convincing research that 10 years old is as old as you can be to get the so-called lifelong passion for science. So we focused the show on those people 10 years old. Turns out fourth grade or what have you is a pretty good level for everybody. That's enabled the show to stand the test of time. But the one thing you can count on in life is that things are going to change. So stay tuned.
Oh, good. We can't wait to hear more. You're out there making sure the U.S. stays in the lead globally.
The U.S. is falling behind in every way scientifically. This idea that you can do your own research online and be every bit as expert as somebody who studied it for decades, I don't think is true. A false premise, what have you. And the current administration is priding itself on picking contrarians to lead organizations like the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Energy, Health and Human Services. This idea that be a disruptor, is inherently good. Move fast and break things is wrong, in my opinion, for most things. Yes, for creating Facebook, it was good. That was good, or pretty good. He got sued for millions and millions of dollars, but it was pretty good. But that's not true of drug testing, and certainly not true of infectious diseases. And this anti-science movement is not good for infectious disease control, public health. And China National Space. I spent a lot of time in the space industry. China National Space Administration will outcompete NASA and probably ESA, European Space Agency. There'll be another one or probably two so-called Sputnik moments when China National Space lands people on the moon, and then when China National Space brings geologic samples back from the planet Mars in around 2033. There'll be a wake-up call, and we'll see how the U.S. responds at that time.
You're on the Hill talking to them about this, I think.
Oh, yes. And you'd think if I show up and make the case, everything would just change, right?
Change. Yeah.
Weird. No, I meet people who don't recognize my genius and so on. That's a joke, everybody. That's irony. Ha, 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 ha. So it is deeply concerning. The anti-science movement here in the U.S. is really not good. And, I like to show everybody the U.S. Constitution, which is, as I like to joke, is available in paperback. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8. The Congress is to promote the progress of science and useful arts. Science, the word science is in the Constitution, 1787. This denial of it or anti-science is really not in anyone's best interest. And so right now, speaking of everything going to heck, this embrace of the fossil fuel industry, which has worked so hard to deny the cause and effect of fossil fuel use and climate change and carbon dioxide and so on, is really bad. It's catching up with us. And so the administration has hired a bunch of people who just don't accept the fact of climate change or want to put it off. And it's really, in public opinion, it's way down compared to all the other extraordinary things that this administration is doing.
Got it. All right. Well, you're going to stay out there and you're going to help educate.
Sure I am. Meanwhile, we have drugs to address ataxia, people. Come on. This is cool.
Which, we know we can do it. So you received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, right?
Yeah, that was cool.
Is that somewhere in the office? I don't know if that's there.
Well,
is it in a drawer?
The big one is on a bookcase in another city, but they give you small ones, which I wear from time to time.
Oh, cool.
So here's the miniature.
Oh, wow.
Which you wear when at a black tie event, which I've done a couple times.
Yeah.
And then you're allowed to wear the bar, which is akin to military medal bars, that high-ranking military people have on their left breast. So I wear this one with a suit. And then once in a while, I wear this really tiny one with a sport coat.
Yeah, that's cool too.
And then the big one is in a safe place in another city. But
got it.
It just means the world to me, everybody. My parents, as we said, my parents are both veterans. I consider myself a patriot. If you look at the rules of the road, the one sheet I gave to everybody who came to work on the Science Guy show, the top line is to change the world. I really wanted the U.S. to lead the world, and that's why I made the show. But it's a difficult time right now, I'll tell you, man.
You're going to fight through it like all of us. We're here to tell the story. I always ask 2 questions before we wrap it. I like to know what your dream vacation is. Do you go on vacation much?
Oh, yeah. So dream vacation. Here, I'm printing something for dramatic effect.
Oh, good.
I'll just say I've had people ask me if I could go anywhere in the cosmos, where would I want to go? And I like to say Hawaii. Hawaii's pretty good.
It's good. Which, do you like the Big Island or?
Well, the Big Island's cool for the volcanoes.
Right.
On honeymoon, we went to Kauai, which was really cool. My wife is quite the hiker, man. A keen tramper, as they say in New Zealand. Anyway, I printed a copy of the rules of the road, the original document.
Yeah.
And so the top line is objective, change the world. And then it says to produce a TV show that gets kids and adults excited about science so that the United States will again be the world leader in technology, innovation, and sound management of the environment. This was in 1992 and then 1993. So this is not a new idea, people, and I consider myself a patriot. Did we get to the 2 questions? Where do I want to go on vacation?
Well, there is one more. You're sent to the moon, the desert island. You're going to be on your own. What's the album you're going to take?
Oh, I think Led Zeppelin's first album. Yeah.
Boom.
The music you listen to when you come of age has a deep effect on you. I enjoy that. I listened to Studio 54, which is disco music, for a little bit. I listen to the Blues Channel all the time.
What about the Grateful Dead channel?
It's okay. I'll do it for a while. I was never a Deadhead. I certainly spent a lot of time with Deadheads. I played Ultimate Frisbee, seriously.
Anything you want to leave with us? What do we need to do? How can we help Bill Nye?
Well, send money to the Bill Nye Science Foundation. But you guys vote. So I tell everybody, take science into account when you vote. This is how we're going to change the world. And everybody, if we could teach one thing to every student, to every adult, to everybody in the world, if we could convey one thing, it would be what's nowadays called critical thinking, where you get in the habit where you routinely evaluate evidence, where somebody tells you something, you are in the habit of trying to decide whether or not it's true. When someone says they've seen an alien spacecraft that came down and probed your nose, just keep in mind there may be another reason you woke up with a nosebleed, a less complicated reason. When someone says the earth is round, that is also an extraordinary claim. You have to go to a little bit of trouble to prove it, but it turns out the world is round. So critical thinking, that's what we need. Back to you.
I think you need your own show back.
All right. It's hardly any work at all. We'll just crank that out.
Yeah, no problem.
And getting funding these days is send an email and the money just shows up.
Yeah, I can relate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining me on the Get Real podcast. I hope you feel a little healthier hanging out with me. It's going to be a lot of fun passing this along to others. Please subscribe below. Please share. I'm excited not just to talk about healthcare, but a lot of other fun topics. It's about making healthy talk about healthcare. It's not a lecture. This is supposed to be fun, and look forward to spending more time with you in the future.